Today we're going to make some fairy lights, and I'm going to show you two different ways to do it, and we'll end up with 3 sets of fairy lights. We're going to first of all use this nice little seaside mould to make one set, probably the quicker and simpler method. Then we're going to use this tiny little frog and this little pig and make moulds from them to show you a matte surface finish and a shiny finish on a set as well. Now our first set's going to be multicoloured. And yes, we are using ultraviolet curing resin. So the fairy lights I'm using, there's 20 in a string, so we need 20 of these. I don't know where I got the mould from, but I will link that in. I'll find one similar and link it in the video description for you. Now what I have done, before I remembered I hadn't pressed record, was mixed up some of the UV resin with a little bit of 200 mesh super sparkle white, which is from my own store. And because I want the multicoloured lights to shine through it, so that's not completely opaque. And I want them all to pick up whatever colour the light is, but look white in daylight. And that will diffuse the light a little bit as well, so it should make it look very pretty and sparkly. Because I've mixed some fine mica powder with the resin, then I'm doing it in layers, and I am going to cure it. Give it a good couple of minutes zap, and we'll do it from the other side as well. So this is just basic ultraviolet curing resin technique. So I'll be back with you once these are... Okay, so that's one lot of curing. Just going to put another dollop in, cure it again. And then of course I will, once this side of it is definitely cured, I'll flip it over, cure it from the other side. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. This side is well cured. And then I just need to keep repeating it until I've got 20 of them. Then I'll show you what we do next. Then of course we'll move on to the one where we embed fairy lights into the resin. You can of course do this with epoxy if you want, it just takes longer to cure. Just make sure if you're using ultraviolet curing resin you don't put so much mica or colour or whatever in them that it inhibits the curing, and it is best to work in a couple of layers if you're doing something a little bit chunkier like we probably are going to be for our fairy lights. So it's all cured from that side. I've just given it an extra quick zap to be sure because of all that sparkle in there. And I'm turning it over, and we're going to give it a good zap from the back as well. I'm just going to give it 1.5 minutes on the back too. Okay, so that should be cured. Yep, aren't they pretty? So these will look like a pretty string of things even when the lights aren't on. Obviously I've got a few little bits of tidying up to do around the edges. See where that one's a little bit of overspill? Not a problem, those will just snap off. Right, you don't need me to watch me do this a whole load of times, do you? I'm going to carry on. Let's get enough to do our 20 lights. So that's the last batch just curing. As you can see, I'll take my gloves off because the next bit's a little bit fiddly and I can't do it with gloves on. I know I don't have an allergic reaction to this brand of ultraviolet curing resin, so it's just I prefer not to get mucky. But I would suggest you wear gloves because it can get messy, and some people do develop an allergic reaction even to the best of brands of resin. This is the one I'm using, by the way. I swear by this stuff. It's awesome. There's a couple of brands I've been using a lot lately that really do stand out. And this is most certainly one of them. And I'll put you the links for everything, obviously, in the video description. Everything I'm using. Now, these I made a real mess when I was putting the resin in, look. And I'll just show you what I mean by... Those funny ones turned out to be little shells, by the way. I'll see what I mean, but I'll show you what I mean about those overspill bits snapping off easily. So that one's all okay. That doesn't need snapping. Right, that one, the bit just came off with my finger. This one, again, it might just snap off my fingers, but, you know, just get a pair of scissors and do that. If it's a lot thicker, wire cutters, precision cutters, that sort of thing works really well. And if you're still left with any little sharp bits, then, of course, a nail file works wonders. This one, look, I made a right mess because I was getting down to the bottom of my pot. But that's how easy it snaps off. When you get it out of the mould, it can be a little bit hot. You're not going to burn yourself, but I'd wait for it to cool because it also firms up more at that point. It's nice, it should be nice and solid. And if you find it sticky, you've either mixed too much stuff in with it, or you haven't cured it long enough, or you're working with a not very good brand of UV resin. This one never lets me down. Can feel slightly clammy when you first get it out of the mould if it's still warm. But leave it 5 minutes to cool instead, and it will be fine. It'll be done. And it will have reached its proper strength as well. So there should be no softness or stickiness with any UV resins. Okay, just have a little clean up and then we'll proceed. Of course, if you're working on a silicone mat, it's nice and easy. So let's have a look at our lights first of all. You can get ones with a bigger battery pack that take AAA batteries and things like that. You can even get solar ones, but these are just very cheap ones that take the little button cell batteries in here, and they're nice and bright. There we go. Batteries usually last a good few hours. Of course, they're cheap enough to replace. I buy whopping big packs of them. Again, just from Amazon. Right, so this is going to be really easy. I will show you how to start it off and then move on to the next one. Okay, going to zoom you in a little bit here, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting these fairy lights and gluing them onto the back with more ultraviolet curing resin. Now what you'll find with these fairy lights, can you see there's a tail? Now these are the sort, they're LEDs, and these are the sort that if you cut it shorter, so if you only wanted like 10 lights, they'll still work fine. They're not like the old-fashioned fairy lights. But we've got a bit of a tail on here. Now because I want that to be the end and I want to stick it into here, I am going to trim the end off like so. So we've only got a little bit of end there. And what we're going to do is we are going to get a little dab of our UV resin. And I've got a bit of the sparkly left still, so we'll use that. And I'm going to glue it on the back. Now what you'll find is that ultraviolet curing resin makes a very, very strong bond. So if you embed your fairy light into it like that, then you're going to get a really good strong hold. That is going nowhere. Now if you do a lot of this, do wear gloves, because a bit of ultraviolet light on your hand once in a while is probably not going to do any harm. But if you're doing a lot of it, it would make a lot of sense to actually wear your gloves, so that you block the ultraviolet light coming through. Or use some really long tweezers to hold them. That would work too, to get your hand out of the way. But I tend to get it started. As soon as it's gripped it, I get my hand out of the way anyway. Now I'll show you the next one, because the next one of course is part way down the cable, so that's going to be a little bit weird. Okay, so there's that one done. As you can see, that's well stuck on there. That's going nowhere. Looks neat, looks nice. Again, just check it for one last little check for any sharp bits. But that is fine. Now let's light it up and see what the effect's like. See? So the blue will glow all the way through it, rather than just be the dot of colour in the middle. That sparkle that I put in, that little bit of mica powder, has diffused the light. So we're going to carry on. Now I'll show you how the second one will work, because all of the rest will be the same. Let's have one of the little seashells this time. So we're going to tip him over. Now what you do for these ones, because it's part way along the cable, you bend it like that so that the light is in the middle. Hold it flat and away you go again. Decide which way up you want it to be. And again, nice blob of your resin. Oops. Get your light over it and away you go. And as soon as that's started to grip it, after, I don't know, 30 seconds will go, so you can take your hand away. Don't look into the light, remember. For the same reason we don't look into the sun, it will wreck your eyes. That's how we're going to do the whole string. So I will see you when I've done the whole string and we can see what they look like. Then we'll move on to the other ones where we're going to actually embed them in the resin. So once that's out, all you do is you pull your lights back into the straight line, give them a pull. There you go. Flatten them back out and you have now got another colour. Let's see what we've got. Yellow! There we go. You see where we're going with this, can't you? So I will see you when this string is done. We'll have a proper look at them all. And like I said, we'll move on to show you how to do the ones where you actually embed them in the resin. And this will also include a little bit of mould making. Although it needn't. If you've already got moulds, you won't need to do that step. But I'll show you anyway, because I know people like to make moulds. Okay, we're on to the last ones now. And there's one thing I kind of forgot to mention. I wanted these to hang down from the wire, which is why I bent the wire into like that U shape, so that they would hang down like that. But if you wanted them to be straight, we'll do it with this last one in fact, shall we? If you wanted them to just be straight on your wire and they didn't need to hang down, so it depends, oops, depends what your design is really, doesn't it? You could just go like that. You don't have to hang them down. I just like them hanging down. So you could do that. Anyway, this is more or less finished, so I'll be back in like about 1.5 minutes, because that's just how long I'm curing the resin for, because it's such a tiny bit. And we'll have a look. There we go. So you can see how that's diffused the light coming through it. Aren't they nice? And because they're on a wire and it's such a, it stays bent, you know, it's a proper wire, you can wrap them around things. You can twist your fairy lights to be, you know, in the position you want. So if you want this one to be around the other way, just do that, and so on. You know, you can really manipulate them. So there you are. There's number one. Right, on to the next. So what I've got here is 2 little pots of resin, which has gone really thick and sticky, so the thing should sink in it. And the reason I've got these is simply because I want to make a mould first of all. Now, if you've already got a mould, you won't know to do this stage. Remember, your mould needs to be transparent or translucent so that the ultraviolet light can get through it. But we're going to have a little pig, and that's going to make a shiny mould. And because this is like a satin finish, you see, it's 3D printed frog, that's going to make a satin finish mould. So we should get 2 very different finishes. I've just putting them onto that resin, so it'll stick them down. This will stop them from floating, and it'll give you a nice finish on the top of your little mould as well. So we're just going to let those cure. See you in a few hours for that. And then we'll make those into fairy lights as well. Okay, the next stage with these 2, that little fella's drifted across unfortunately. But the next stage will be to make the silicone mould out. Now, they haven't sunk as far as I can tell, so we should have the feet and everything in there. That's good. Let's get some silicone mixed up. First thing to do, though, is to put something down on this surface. I'm just going to use the back of this packet where I've had some rubber stamps come in, because I don't want to get silicone on my silicone mat. It doesn't do it a lot of good. It's a strange stuff. And we're going to mix some silicone up and put it in there. And we're going to use this pot, which I used yesterday for silicone too. So it's just all peeling out, look. Silicone I use is a really good one. It's a IntoResin one. Let's zoom you out a bit. There we are, so you can see me mixing it. It's a 1-to-1. I must admit, I'm terrible. I tend to eyeball it, like I do with a lot of things. But always move to measure it properly, because then you can be sure it will work. I'm just rather good at doing this. It's a nice semi-transparent look. It's translucent silicone, which means it's great for your ultraviolet curing resin type things, because the light will pass through it like it did with our fairy lights earlier. And it's also it debubbles on its own. It's just wonderful stuff. You can put it through a debubbling chamber, but I don't bother. It just debubbles on its own, and it makes a nice soft silicone rubber mould that is just so good for this sort of thing, for your detail. You know, fairly detailed and small pieces, right up to big stuff. But it's a high quality silicone. There we go, giving it a good thorough stir. Made sure I've got down into the nooks and crannies in the bottom of the pot, and we're going to go just comfortably above the head of the little piggy. Obviously don't want our mould being thin and flimsy. And I might end up with some left over here, so I have got another thing that I want to make a mould of to hand as well. Right, I'll see you later when that has all cured. And we're back, and I've retrieved my little frog and my pig. I'm just soaking them both in water to get off the remains of the paper cup, because then I can use them again and again, can't I? So just dropping them in water to soak that off. Now, we've got our little moulds. Bottom of this one's the frog, slightly messy, but that doesn't matter. You can see I've definitely caught his feet and everything, at least I hope so. And the little pigs come out really nice and clean. Now, what we've got is some pink fairy lights and some white ones. There's the white ones. Oh, swap them over. And here's the pink ones. So this is another. I'm going to show you 2 different ways of getting your pieces coloured, and also, as we said, this is going to be a frosted finish and this is going to be a shiny finish. So that'll give us 2 different ideas. So first of all, I'm going to just colour some UV resin. You can use ready coloured UV resin, of course. And I'll mix up quite a bit, because I'm going to do, obviously I've got a whole string of 20 to do, but I'm going to do 1 on each, and then we'll look at the result, and then I'll finish the rest off camera, because you don't need to see that over and over and over. Well, it'll be 40 times in total, won't it? I've got some lovely new inks. I've got this set of translucent resin pigments. There we go, they're from IntoResin. Thanks to IntoResin for sending me those. And we're going to use those in the resin. So these are for, well, primarily for epoxy resin, but they work very well in UV resin, as long as you don't put so much in that you block the light going through, of course. So you can either open these by sticking a pin down the tip, or you can cut the tip off like that. You get a smaller hole if you stick a pin down. So it's up to you. But these are actual resin dyes rather than alcohol inks. I've given it a good shake, and let's have a mix. This colour is called a light green, which I thought was perfect for a frog. I'm putting quite a bit in. Obviously, we don't want to overdo it because we won't be able to cure it, will we? But we do need a fair bit of colour. And also, if you put too much liquid pigment in, any resin won't cure anyway. There we go. That should do, shouldn't it? Okay, we're in business. So let's get our little frog and we'll have a look and see how the first one comes out. Now, with this, you haven't got the... I'm going to try not to get it on my hands. With this one, we haven't got the tail on the end of the wire. So there's nothing to need to trim off. I'm just putting a glove on the hand that I'm going to be holding the wire with. And we're going to bend the end over to a right angle, like so, roughly. Decide which way we want our little frog pointing. I think I'll do 2 of each because then I'll show you how you do the ones in between the... Oops. There we go. The ones that are actually along the wire. Okay, so we're going to hold that in place just where we want it. And we're going to cure it. Now, do remember, this is going to take you a while because you're doing one at a time. Actually, I'm going to swap hands. I'll need to put a glove on the other hand, won't I? But let's just get this one done, then I will. And because you've got colour in there and you've got quite a lot of resin, do cure it for a bit of a while. You'll be able to remove your hand after a few seconds anyway. And to be on the safe side, just because it's quite chunky, I'm going to turn him over. Now, when you make something this big, you might get bubbles in it. Say this big. It's deep for a UV resin thing, isn't it? So I'm just going to give it a few seconds on the back as well to be sure. Then we'll get him out and have a look, and I'll show you how to do the second one, because that's then how you'll do the entire chain. Okay, let's hope that's done it. Boink. And there we have a frog. And can you see he's got like a frosted effect? And because it was 3D printed, there's all the little lines from the 3D print. Now, when you snap off any overspill, just be careful. It's very easy to cut through the wire. But let's have a look and see what he lights up like. There you go. So he just glows. You can just see that little light through. But if you use a matte mould, you're going to get a matte piece and it will diffract the light around a little bit. So that's quite nice, isn't it? Now, I'm just going to show you how you do the next one along the wire. And it'll look familiar because we were doing it with some of the previous string. So we're going to bend it like that so that the light is in the middle, like so. Can you see that? There's the little tiny light. And we are going to fill our frog up again. Don't forget to put your UV resin well away from the light when you're doing this, when you're curing the previous one, because otherwise you'll end up with it all curing in the pot and you don't want that. Okay, make sure you're going right up to the top. I overfilled a little bit last time. And then the easiest way to do it is to bend it like that, because then you can get your hand underneath, like so. Put your lamp over, and I'm kind of giving it, I'm going to give it the full whack of what this lamp does on both sides. You might find yourself tipping your lamp. You can see this is a very well used one. I need to give it a good clean, don't I? If you do tip it, make sure you tip it away from your eyes. Okay, I can probably let go of that now, and I'm just going to do the other side. So that's the method. Now, while that is curing, let's put that to one side. Let's have a look at what the pink lights look like in this one, and it's just going to be completely clear. So again, I'm going to get the end of my wire ready. So we're just bending it up. This one has got a little bit of a tail, but I'm just going to bend that out of the way because it's only the tiniest tail, look. So we're bending it up at a right angle. Tidy up the wires like that. Now, because this is going to be clear and it's going to be shiny, you probably want to be a little bit more careful with your wire to make sure it's really neat inside, because you'll be able to see it more, won't you? See, with the frog, I've kind of gone off at an angle a bit there. I don't think it matters too much, to be perfectly honest. Right, let's just wait for my lamp to come free. But yeah, if you can be a little bit neater with the ones that are clear and shiny, then that would probably be wise. So again, I'm going to bend it as an angle because then it's easier to get it under my lamp. So I can hold it like so. That's the idea. So we're going to fill the little piggy up. Because you could tint the resin with pink or whatever as well. Or put like a bit of something to make it slightly translucent like we did last time with the glittery stuff. I just wanted to show you the 3 main options really. Right. And this should cure easier because the resin is clear. So let's get my hand out from under there. We'll leave it, and then again we're still going to turn it over just to be on the safe side, because that is quite a chunk of resin. Now, of course, if you're doing 2 of these and you've got 2 lamps on the go, you can like back and forth, back and forth. What I wouldn't try and do is do 2 at once on the same string, and that is simply because you need another pair of hands and you end up making a mess of it. That's just my experience, and I must have made several hundred of these strings of fairy lights before now. So that's just my tip, really. So obviously this is going to take a long time because each one takes a good couple of minutes to cure, and you've got 20 of them. So this is some on each string. So this is something to do when you've got a little bit of time and you don't want to think about things too much. I would suggest that should be done. There we are. And do you see what I mean? Shiny. Because the mould was shiny, because the original was shiny, because the mould was shiny, we have got shiny, and you can see the wire through. So there's our pig, and then you do all the rest of them in the same way, bending it like that and dunking it in. So nice and easy. Now I'm going to finish off the rest of these, and then at the end we'll have some glamour shots, of course, but I hope you can see the difference if you use a shiny mould to if you use a matte finish mould, or in this case a 3D printed one, so it's got a bit of a satin finish to it. Some moulds are even more satin, through to if you put a little bit of mica powder in. See, very different finishes. Right, I'll carry on and get them finished, and then it'll be down to some glamour shots. So if you found this helpful, you know what to do. Please do click some of these random buttons down here. Just subscribing is free, liking and commenting is free, and very much appreciated too. And I will see you for the next video. Thanks everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.